Kate, hi.
Hello.
Hello. Kate and Larissa, you're the first in. Would either of you be ready to celebrate something going well, big or small? Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
You can chip in too. What are
Yeah,
we celebrating
the
today?
coffee machine on reception is now up and running. Yeah.
Yeah, I did miss that when I was there last time. It's always a highlight that lovely drinks section. Yeah, that's really good news. Anyone else got some good news?
Oh, I do.
Um,
I
Yes,
can give you
Leanne.
good news. I've been waiting for the diocese to fix my kitchen floor for about 6 months, and they did it yesterday. Yay!
Fantastic. I've got lots of friends in your
Wonderful.
position, Leanne, who are vicars or vicars' other halves who just tear their hair out with the
Yeah, I mean,
maintenance.
it's still a bodge job, but it's like not as bad as it was. So I'll take that.
Okay.
A
Okay.
better, a
Yeah, it's
better
a win.
bodge job.
Yeah, yeah, I'll take it.
Well done. Anyone else? What are we celebrating today? Big or small things? We've had a coffee maker, we've had the kitchen being fixed by the diocese. Anyone else? Any other takers? Big or small?
Mine is that one of my plants on my windowsill is flowering, which I'm very excited about. Because I didn't actually realise that it was even a flowering one.
Oh, Kate.
So I'm like, yay, it's thriving.
You have green
So
fingers.
yeah,
What an achievement.
thank you. This is a new
Congrats.
discovery for me, but yeah, I'm very excited about that.
I love that. That is a brilliant one. Larissa, Alex, or Will, anyone have anything they're celebrating, big or small? Even just getting up if you weren't feeling too great this morning.
There's only 7 weeks till Christmas holidays. Quite happy about
Woo!
that. Love Christmas.
Did you love half term as well, Larissa? Did you want a bit longer?
I didn't massively love half term because my husband was in Gabon for the first week and South Korea for the second week. So, um,
Okay.
and I wasn't very well on the first week either.
Oh,
So,
oh.
yes, I'm looking forward.
Yes. Bit of FOMO. I've got a bit of FOMO there. Aldi sounds like he's having a lovely time. South Korean food as well. Yeah, bit of envy. Alex or Will, anything from you or Claire?
Um, I mean, my daughter is turning 10 this weekend, and we really struggled for a long time to have kids. So we were both just kind of looking at each other like, oh my gosh, all those years of struggling and waiting, and here's this kid turning 10.
Oh,
What? So that's
well done. That's incredible, Alex. I love the way you flipped because Claire and I often talk about birthdays, like and how draining it can be to organize the relatives, the present, the family. But what a lovely perspective. You're absolutely right. How wonderful it is to be a parent. So great. Will or Claire, would you like to celebrate anything, big or small?
I'll just do a little one. We thought our pussycat had gone missing, but he's back. He's on, but
Yay!
curled up on the sofa, absolutely exhausted. So that's
Oh,
good.
where has he been? What adventures have been
I know.
happening?
I have asked him, but he didn't tell me.
I love it. Will, have you got anything to share
Um,
today?
yeah, I purchased a refurbed phone through, I think it's back market or whatever. And there's a little bit of back and forth. Sometimes they're not so willing to hand over refunds and things, but
Hmm.
managed to get it through this morning. So that's a
Yes.
win. Happy days.
Well, love that. Well done. Well done. Good bit of admin there. Right. We have got two amazing tools today. Now, we probably say this every single session, but Claire and I are particularly excited about these two. We have found them to be the gift that keeps giving. And we've got some great things to reveal about these tools as we go deeper and hopefully share some things. And also, just so excited to hear your insights, which I'm sure will be really rich and will bless the whole group. So, thank you in advance for sharing. So we are already in recording mode. Let's jump into the tool now, and we're going to start off with the mindset for today. Um, and so, forgive my paraphrase of the passage, but we were on with Stuart Ford yesterday, and he's given me the kind of so-so thumbs up of the theology. So hopefully that reassures you that we are okay. So Ephesians 5, be very careful, then, it says, how you live, not as unwise, which I've summarized as accidental, but as wise, intentional, making the most of every opportunity. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, accidental, but as wise, intentional, making the most of every opportunity. So when you heard Jeremy on the video talking about that dimmer switch on your back that we can turn up for intentional and we can let fall down for accidental, we're really thinking about Ephesians 5 and actually being careful how we live. Actually, that heart, that participation we have with the grace of and the love that we've received from God. And speaking of the love of God, there's also this passage as a mindset as well, Matthew 22:29. Love others as you love yourself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. In fact, perhaps you can only love others as much as you love yourself. And that links really nicely with the 5 circles of influence. And that bullseye in the middle that you see straight away is self. Now, that's not selfish. That's just saying that when we look after ourselves, and that includes our spiritual dimension as well. If your radar is saying it's God first, yes, spiritual dimension is included, but also your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, and all the other things that go with that as well. Are you bringing yourself liberation? And remember, by liberation, we now have a really good definition from the support challenge matrix tool that we did a couple of weeks ago. So we're mapping tools today. What does it mean to be intentional with myself? Well, it means to calibrate high support for myself with high challenge for myself as well. Am I doing both? Where do I tend to find myself if I'm accidental? Now, sometimes you can tell where you find yourself if you're accidental by listening in to your inner thoughts or by noticing what comes out. I remember growing up with a family member who, if they made a mistake, you'd hear them, and they were quite a shy, private, probably introverted person. But if they made a mistake, you'd hear them say, "Oh, stupid," or "You idiot." And she'd just say that to herself, and it was so out of character. She wouldn't say that about anyone else, always very supportive. But I'd hear her say that of herself. And that suggests to me that there was a highly critical voice within that actually, if unfiltered, can become very difficult to manage. So that dominating voice within, do any of us relate to that, I wonder? So what are we doing with ourself? Where would we put our self circle in terms of liberation? Are we intentional there? Are we liberating? Or are we accidental? And are we perhaps dominating ourselves or protecting ourselves? Oh, go on. We don't really need to have to do that deadline. We don't really need to have to do that bit of exercise, or, let's just go to bed late tonight. When actually we need to bring ourselves some challenge in order to be kind and liberate ourselves as well. So think about what's going on inside. Next, we have the circle of family as well. Sometimes we just leave, if we're honest, we leave for our family, our nearest and dearest, our partner, our spouse. We just leave them the scraps, really, of whatever's left. And sometimes the outer rings can come first. So we need to think about self and then family. Are we being intentional about liberating those closest people to us, the people you live with or the people you spend most time with? Some of you have children, some of you have dependent relatives, like elderly parents, perhaps, who've become more involved in your lives. You need to spend more time with them. So is there an intentionality there, or are we accidental? Do we have boundaries with some of these characters who can take up lots of time? Or are we not actually seeing them one-to-one at all? And you can think about different family members. So I'd recommend to consider at least 3 of your closest family members and ask yourself, which quadrant of the support challenge matrix would you put yourself in with them? Are you being intentional or are you being accidental? Are there appropriate boundaries with those individuals? And is there intentionality in spending time with them one-to-one? Next, we have your team. So all of you are in teams and have some management responsibilities within teams. So be thinking there about those people you most closely work with. Are you intentional in your team time at planning meetings that will bring challenge and support as well? Or are you just rattling through the to-do list and just sort of firefighting? And also with them as individuals as well, are you liberating each individual? So, you might find yourself with different team members in different quadrants. So that whole circle might not be one complete colour. It might be green, grey, red, and yellow, depending on the 4 quadrants of the support challenge matrix and where you might put them. You might be abdicating with one team member, you might be protecting another, you might be dominating another, and so on. And then we have the organisation as a whole as well. What about in terms of fulfilling your duties? And what about building relationships with other people in other teams, going along to the gatherings and inputting in things that are a bit more cross department? Are you giving yourself to those things? Are you perhaps joining in with some socials, the card games, the board games, or whatever else is going on? To what extent are you liberating the organisation as a whole? And then we go to the very outer layer, which, if you have time, is your involvement in the community. And that could be very small. If, some of us are very, very busy at this stage in life, you might not have a lot of time for the community. That's okay. But are you intentional with neighbours? If you're on dog walks, do you greet your neighbours? Do you volunteer to do something? Perhaps you're on the PCC at your church, or perhaps you're a governor at a school, or perhaps you step down from that because that required some intentionality to do so. Or perhaps you volunteer in a local charity shop, or you do the odd litter pick. There's lots of different ways you can be involved in your community, maybe with a kids club, like coaching some football or helping at brownies and so on. So there's many different ways you can liberate the community. But one thing to notice is the important aspect, the most important aspects are in the middle. So that's why you can see, as we start to try to liberate every circle of influence, the deepest green is that middle section of self, and then family, then team, organisation, and community. Because otherwise, we might be operating outside in the community as someone who's got loads to offer, loads of time to spare, loads of liberation. Everyone thinks we're wonderful, but actually, we're not really being kind to ourselves, and we're not being intentional with those with whom we live. And that can sometimes happen when we're busy, organised, professional people. So that was my whistle-stop tour of the 5 circles of influence. We are going to couple Know Yourself, Lead Yourself, the second tool, with the core process, because that's where it sits most happily. It's actually a mirror tool with the core process. So we'll do that one as part 2. So before we share, we're going to do some breakout rooms. And before we do that, any questions from anybody on the 5 circles of influence, or anything you want me to go back over again? No question is too silly or small. Okay, great. Well, I'm sure you're dying to process this with each other. Claire, over to you for any breakout room questions.
I created chaos yesterday when I did the first lot of breakout rooms, so I'm really hoping that this is going to be successful today.
I don't think anyone's at Bible Society, are they? Or in the same room with each other at Bible Society? It looks like most people are at home, so yeah, we're good. See you soon. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How did you
Good.
find that? What are your thoughts? If you don't mind sharing, we'll go straight in while the others join.
I said I was so late in joining the meeting, unfortunately. I have laptop problems. I missed the beginning part, unfortunately. I did actually do all your work yesterday, sort of getting caught up, which is a bit late because I was on annual leave last week. But I would say for myself, I'm sort of accidental, definitely. Family and team is intentional. Community, I did put down as accidental first of all, but when I was talking to Claire a minute ago, it could be more intentional. I don't go to church or anything, but I do. My weekends is spent, looking after your family, taking mother-in-law shopping or doing her shopping for her. She's been quite poorly lately. Yeah, so that's where I am.
That's lovely. And actually, they say charity starts at home, don't they? And
they do.
community, looking after the community starts with your in-laws and things, doesn't it?
It does.
Because they might not necessarily be in your 2 or 3 closest family, but they're still part of that wider group of your community, Karen. So you're definitely sort of probably, as a nurturer, often harder on yourself.
And that's exactly what I was saying to Claire. I'm really hard on myself, definitely.
Yeah.
And I would kick myself if I do something silly at work. I would be kicking myself and say, "Why on earth did you do that, Karen? You."
Yes. Yeah.
And like everything being perfect, and
Good. So you've recognized that the area there that has been highlighted for more intentionality is self as
Mm.
well. So
Yes, definitely.
hold that thought for the next section.
Okay.
Leanne, let's come to you next. What are your thoughts? And so celebrate where are you being intentional and where accidental?
I mean, I feel like probably not being particularly intentional at the moment generally, which is not great. We talked a little bit about um, the tyranny of the urgent and
Mm,
like ending up doing the stuff that is immediately required
mm,
and then deprioritizing the stuff that like for family where it's not necessarily urgent, but it is actually the priority longer term. But it's easier to kind of park that stuff because it's not on fire and other stuff is. Do you know what I mean?
yes,
Talked a little
yes.
bit about so being married to a vicar makes this particularly difficult, just in terms of like the community circle actually ends up being the one that like just
Mhm,
drains time, but it's
mhm,
really hard to actually be intentional to say no
mhm, mhm,
because it's urgent all the time. So yeah,
mhm.
I don't know.
Good.
This one is tricky for us, and it is something that like collectively at home we've talked about, but I don't have a nice answer for how
No,
to do
that's okay.
that.
We don't need answers yet. You can just hold that space of saying, I can see it's a tendency for the community circle just to become completely dominant and overgrown at the expense of perhaps self and family as well. So hold that thought. Really good. Kate, anything from you?
Yeah, so I put self and family as accidental and
Hmm.
the others as intentional, which I think in some ways I'm like, I mean, I'm definitely trying to be more intentional with the ones that I've put as accidental.
Hmm.
But I think sometimes it's almost like or firstly, the sort of phrase of like those who are closest to you are, the ones who often see your worst side.
Hmm.
I think is a
Hmm.
bit true for me, and I also probably do sort of prioritize, making an effort basically in both the work setting and like community. But I'm not actually necessarily pouring the same level of intentional care into myself or well, not necessarily always with my family because I do obviously try to do that too, but I think in terms of whether I'm actually being intentional, I'm sort of actively thinking about the other things as in team, organisation, and community, but I don't necessarily automatically think about how am I sort of caring for myself or my family well. So yeah, I think
Excellent. Kate,
that's
that's really good processing. That's really excellent to see. And I think that's a lot of people's tendency is to prioritize those outer circles that are more public and perhaps there's more of a deadline there, and therefore to neglect those inner circles. So you've just expressed that really helpfully. Thank you. Will, go to you next.
Really, it's ditto, and exactly what you've just said there, Laura.
Yeah, yeah,
I think it just comes easy. Well, it's easy.
yeah.
Whereas, so you have to be intentional to,
Mm,
prioritize family life and things. But yeah, even things like work. I was, sharing with Leanne earlier. I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I'm
mhm,
aware of it, and it has been an issue in family life. So it's just putting in boundaries and just being intentional about prioritizing family as well, and making sure that they don't overlap too much. But yeah, that outer circle, it's flipping the script.
Will, that's so good that you know you're a workaholic.
Oh
It
yeah,
took me a long time. I was at a church for quite a while as a student where they'd list all sorts of sins, and I was like, well, I'm none of those. And
yeah,
I really missed the fact, because it was a very academic church, I missed the fact that practically 85% of the church had the same idol, which was work,
yeah.
because it was never spoken about, sadly. So well done you for knowing that. And that is just something to remain intentional about. Well done. That's so good. Larissa, over to you next.
Um, I would say I'm fairly intentional throughout most of the circles. I think I have learnt over the years that I need to give myself permission to have time off
Mhm.
in order actually to be my sort of best version of myself for everybody else. So I have Fridays off work, and I pretty much always go like belong to like a gym at a hotel that has like a spa and stuff. And Friday mornings, drop the kids at school, go there, usually by myself, like go for a swim, sit in the steam room for a while. And actually that has just become my Friday routine, that almost like if I try not to break it for any reason, because I've just found that actually I don't need to go to the chiropractor anymore because I don't have back problems, because that's just like I've been able to identify that time as like it just relaxes me enough that then actually I can give lots of attention to my family over the weekend, and like we can have great weekends rather than feeling like I just feel like I need to pass out for the weekend.
That's so
after
good.
after
So,
work.
so
And I
good.
think with work that there's always the nature of work is that there's always more work to be done, and actually you can never get everything done, and you kind of have to accept that. And also I've got a husband who travels a lot and works a lot, and in order to make our family work, I have to work less to make that happen. Like that's kind of what, the decision that we've come to. And that kind of means that I need to like not feel guilty about the time to kind of look after myself so that I can look
Yes.
after everybody else as well.
Yes.
Um,
Excellent. Larissa, that sounds like you've already been on that journey of intentionality, and well done. One of my coaching colleagues, Steve, who some of you have met, he often says, you can't pour from an empty cup. And another one says, you should pour from your saucer, not from your cup. So from the overflow, if you're full from the excess, which is quite a challenge. How many of us feel like our cup is overflowing all the time and that there's plenty on the saucer for everyone else? But that's a nice idea to have. And it sounds, Larissa, like you're pursuing that, and you're actually seeing how in the long term it's making you healthier and perhaps is saving some time as well. Good. Sarah, what have you got for us today? What are you celebrating, and where do you need more intentionality?
I think it depends who I'm dealing with as to where I am. So at work I try and be intentional and be a bit more liberating of my staff. And we were talking about giving someone a job and then not taking it back halfway through, or checking on them, and managing your expectations of that job, even if it's something trivial or something important. And I'm trying to get better at that and not be controlling in that. Home life depends who I'm dealing with at home. You know, I think my daughter just is quite happy plodding along, but my son, he's like, when he asks you something, it's like, oh, flip a neck down, it's that. And I'm probably not, I'm probably a bit more, trying not to control what I'm doing, but trying to liberate him in that sense. Do you know what I mean? But I have to be a bit more, come on, So I think it's down to whatever circumstances we're in, and also probably on what kind of mood I'm in as well sometimes. And I know that's not acceptable, but I said to Elaine a couple of weeks ago, I said I need to take a day off, because I said if I don't take a day off, I'm going to be forced to take a day off because I'm going to be unwell. And she said, yeah, that's fine. You take tomorrow off. And that day off did me really good, only because of the circumstances we're in with two people off sick, permanent sick at the moment. But I think it's just looking after yourself in that respect as well. And I've learned from the past few weeks where I've been trying to do a lot, and it's like, well, okay, this isn't going to work, because you're going to get to the weekend and not be a happy person as well. So yeah.
That's it. There's a lovely phrase, a stitch in time saves nine. And actually that day off was such a good investment. And I'd encourage you, Sarah, to think ahead and think, actually, could I plan for a day off or an afternoon off a month, once a month?
Yeah.
Could I plan for that so I know it's coming? Because sometimes knowing it's coming, even if you haven't got it immediately, can bring you some liberation in the short term as well. That's great. Last but not least, Alex, thank you for waiting. Over to you.
I was in the room with Kate, and we had sort of almost exact opposites in our little circles. So so for self and family, I'm very intentional. Think a lot, make sure stuff happens, very focused, very sort of like, yes, on top of this, let's do this. Um, Whereas, say, for example, with team and organization, that feels far more accidental. Communities, honestly, that just depends on how I feel that day, really. But I think the accidental stuff, because I was trying to deconstruct as to why I feel that way, and I think it's interesting because it's almost like a kind of approach to how much control I decide to have in those situations. Because generally speaking, before I was working here, I was freelancing, and my approach to that you'd think would be far more intentional, but wasn't. The whole thing I always put in the beginning when I started doing it was like, God, this is what I'm literally praying for all the time is work, and I'm praying for things to happen. And so I don't feel like I'm really in control of that stuff. And that's, I think, also carries over into my work generally. It's like, I am not the person at the steering wheel here. So you do the driving in the classic cliche. And thus, in a way, things feel more like they will happen when they happen, and they happen like this. I don't feel like I have a lot of control. But is it that I should have more control, or is it a different mindset I need? That kind of thing. So
It's that balance, isn't it, of partnership with God, and sort of asking through prayer, but doing our bit as well as the promptings come. And actually, that's where the intentionality and being accidental can come in. So it's a good lens, perhaps, to just filter it through. Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. So it sounds as though everybody has got clear on one area, at least, where they might want to build a bit more intentionality. So the question is, what do we do now? And you may already have your next step because you did the prep and well done. Or you may have done the prep, but you're still not that clear on your next step. Either way, I hope that the next section, as we look at Know Yourself, Lead Yourself and the core process, are going to really help with that. We're going to now try and drill down into finding a next step because that's the key for each session. Okay, so let's jump into the next slide. And here's a nice quote as we set up this slide from U2, one of my favorite songs of all time, Stuck in a Moment. 2018 just speaks to me about certain times in my life. And there's a phrase where Bono shouts, "Get out of your own way." And it's just so good. And that's what Know Yourself, Lead Yourself is all about. It's about getting out of our own way. We're constantly sometimes just going round and round a loop of our own tendency that leads to certain actions, that leads to certain consequences, that informs our reality. And actually, the Know Yourself, Lead Yourself tool is an invitation not to making a massive revolutionary whole scale change, but to making a small pattern change that can have a massive impact. Trust me, it can have a huge impact, just something small. And we had a testimony there from Sarah of just that day off really, really benefited her. We heard Larissa say she's not going to the chiropractor anymore because at some point she stopped and made a small pattern change. So already there's some great stuff happening in the room. Now, we've actually rebuilt this tool because we find the infinity loop, although it's brilliantly symbolic, is a little bit confusing because people think, oh, do we sort of go on this figure of 8? So we tend to use this one, which shows it as a flow around the outside. So we can either start with our reality and say this thing keeps going wrong, or this thing keeps happening, or we can start with our tendency and move around the circle. Let me give you an example because I think it's most helpful when we have an example. So the reality was a few years ago when James and I first got in touch with this tool, that we would often both be working full time, particularly before we had kids, and we'd be traveling home for home, I say my birth home, to our parents or to his parents. We'd be going for Christmas, spend a few days with them, or spend a few days on holiday with family or with friends. And we would literally be absolutely shattered. We'd have fallen off a cliff. We both worked full time in education for quite a long time. And if I wasn't absolutely haggard at the end of the term, I would feel like I hadn't actually done my job. So we'd be driving up to my parents, for example, just thinking how shattered we are. And we'd arrive as consumers. We'd arrive there like, entertain me, feed me, you get the scrags. And actually, when we did this, we just realized this was very accidental. And we weren't really investing in that time. And sometimes there might be a bit of fallout of that, or people might feel a bit disappointed with not having had the quality time with us that they would have liked. So we put in an intervention. And the place to put the intervention, some of you who've done lots of workshops with me will know, is along the dotted line. Okay, we never will change our tendencies. Our tendencies will always be with us. They will always be there. They will always be the same. And without intentionality, they will keep coming back. So, what was our tendency in this state? My tendency was to not prioritize, to be accidental with my family. So, the action would be to absolutely wear myself out in work. Consequence would be I'd arrive up north at my parents' house, really tired at Christmas time. And the reality was that that time would be mediocre. So it required a change. So what did we do? We decided that we would try to slow down towards a holiday. So try to put any deadlines, bring them a week before. Just put that deadline in a week ahead, not on that last week in the build up to a holiday, and try to do more menial things in that week before. Try to just keep a clearer diary, block out some evenings, not say yes to every social going, but actually try to just safeguard some time, have some extra sleep so that we could arrive and things could be better. And this was quite a few years ago now. And the consequence was better quality time. And the reality now is that my elder sister, who we would always see up north because they live up in Liverpool, has become one of my very, very best friends. And before we made these changes, that wasn't the case. I'd probably leave her with sort of the scrag ends. I didn't necessarily have the time or energy to invest too much in that relationship. And now it is such a joy to spend quality time with her. I was up there recently and we just had a couple of hours on Saturday morning in our pajamas, just catching up for a long time. And there was no hurry, and that's become a habit. So that's been a really, really wonderful consequence of that small pattern change. Now, what is it for you? What could it be? I was with someone yesterday, I was coaching someone yesterday. They said their tendency was to be accidental with themselves. And they said, I just don't celebrate enough the things I'm doing. I'm constantly thinking about the things that haven't gone brilliantly well. So we decided we'd come up with a way forward for them. Now, this is where you move to the core process, which you do with every single tool. What we do is we call it. So we say, which area am I being accidental in? So he said, with myself, I'm being accidental with myself. Own it. I'm not celebrating things enough. I'm being too critical. Respond. Okay, what can you do? So one of the things I asked him about, which was one of the habits he committed to, was journaling. I said, how's your journaling going? He said, I'm not doing it at the moment. I said, right, what you're going to do. So where we came to was an execution, which was that every evening he was going to get his journal and he's literally just going to write down 3 celebration points. I do this every day in this season and I just use a tick. I literally take up 2 lines a day in my journal. It's very brief. And I just tick something that went well, a place where I was intentional that day. I try to get at least 3. And then, because I'm doing it like an examine where you have 3 good things and then 1 thing to learn, I might put an exclamation mark, which is something to learn or something I'd like to do better next time. And that's just become a process, 3 ticks and an exclamation mark that help me to review the day and to make sure that I am celebrating, therefore bringing myself high support with the challenge that will always come. 3 to 1 is quite a good ratio for celebration to challenge. So that's the core process, and that's hopefully a helpful way of showing you how it pairs with Know Yourself, Lead Yourself. It's where we're trying to get clear on what small pattern change needs to take place, and it needs to be something specific. So before you go and coach one another, here's a reminder that usually I will take out my phone and I will schedule into my diary something as a result of my next step that I've committed to, because the execution is the when. When am I going to do this? And who's going to keep me accountable on it? It's the detail piece. So try to steer clear of just a general response and try to come up with something specific and give it a start date as well. All right. So the next task in your 2s is to come up with that one specific area where you want to become more intentional and coach one another in what you can do. What's one small thing you can do to make a change? All right. Any questions? Any clarification? Totally fine. Wonderful. Can't wait to hear what you come up with. See you on the other side. You're back with your partners again. You've done very well. Karen, I'm afraid you're here, so I'm going to ask you again first. We have about 1 minute each, no more than 1 minute each. So just briefly, did you get to a next step?
Yeah, the next step, thinking, having time to myself, taking, not working through like lunch or whatever, going out for that walk, getting some fresh air, some thinking time away from the screen. And again, sort of prioritize some time for myself again at the weekend, is whereabouts I am.
Excellent. So every day at lunchtime, half an hour of doing something you look forward to, like lunch without a screen or a walk.
Exactly, it's
Yeah,
what I need. Yeah.
lovely. And then putting something in each weekend as well. Great. And
Mhm.
who will keep you accountable?
Myself.
Us. So it'd be great if somebody here would ask Karen how it's going in a couple of weeks. Any
Have I done it?
volunteers? Okay. Yes. Thank you, Sarah. Awesome. So let's go around my screen clockwise. So Larissa, you're next, if that's okay. Do you have a next step?
Yeah, Sarah and I decided we're going to say no to things.
Great.
We both go to the same church actually, and I was saying that I quite often get asked to do Alpha, which is on a Wednesday night. I don't like it, so I don't like being out in the evenings. I don't like how intensive it is. It's long. I don't like it. So my husband keeps saying to me, just say no, like it's fine. And actually, I've said yes to doing. I'm like the worship coordinator now at church, and I love doing that. I love
Right.
doing
Good.
worship. I love chatting with people. So I'm like, I'm going to say no to Alpha, said
Yeah.
yes to worship, and
Great.
yes.
Excellent. I love it. Just say no. I think we might all need to hear that today. Sarah, what have you got?
So, so I'm saying no to cooking for Alpha as well. Because you have to cook for people.
Poor Alpha.
And there can be quite a few people, but it's like it comes. I think the thing is, and for me as a Christian, I feel obligated. I have to say yes to everything. And Pete often says to me, "Why do you keep saying yes? You can say no." And so that's what I'm going to do. But I think I'm also going to take a bit more time for myself because then I think someone had said it earlier, and I'd actually written it in my notepad last week. I want to be the better version of myself. I can't give from the empty saucer. It's
Yes.
got, I can't give if I haven't fully invested in what I want to give. I get to a Friday and I'm so tired, and it's just like,
Yeah.
and that type of thing. So saying no and doing things for myself a little bit more.
So good. Love others as you love yourself. And like we don't see Jesus rushing around. We don't see Jesus saying yes to everything. So it's not God putting that on us.
No.
It's us putting that on us or others. So brilliant, Sarah. We applaud you. Kate.
Yeah, so mine is for sort of being more intentional with myself. So I was with Alex and I was saying that this is something I used to do, which I really liked, and just let it slip away. So reinstating it, which is sort of a bit of a spin on like a gratitude list, which was that I used to do sort of like 3 bullet points of God's blessings over the day, or things that have made me smile, or where I've sort of seen God at work. So like I said, I think this was really good because I realised I'm not always very good at like actually taking time to like thank God for the good things and also seeing all of the good things in my life. So I found it really helpful. But part of it, I think, was that I used to basically do that just before going to sleep, and sometimes I just went to sleep instead. So one of the reflections is to shift the time, so sort of pre getting ready for bed routine rather than the last thing I do. So hopefully I won't actually fall asleep before doing it.
So good, Kate. My top tip is to kneel by the bed for 1 minute because it keeps me awake.
Yeah.
And literally, and don't make you don't it doesn't have to be a big thing. It's just literally 1 minute, but it is that amazing opportunity to just take stock and think, I'm doing all right here. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful. I love it, Kate. Alex, I'll come to you next. You're in the middle, but I'm not going to leave you till last again.
Mine was about finding better sort of time management's the right way to put it. But I tend to hyper focus on a project. If I'm editing, you sort of have to hold everything in your head, and then everything else is pure distraction, and you kind of really do have to get in the zone. And the downside to that, obviously, is you're working in an organization and in a team. And of course, other things are happening around you that are also important. So it's finding ways not to break the concentration, but if it's like you work in chunks of 25 minutes, stop, see what's happening so that you don't then end up at the end of the day looking at a whole bunch of messages and going, that was actually quite important. I probably should have dealt with that.
Excellent. So sprints with those breaks in between, the change of gears in between, Alex. I love that. Leanne.
I struggled with this to be honest, but I think maybe I'm going to try and book a meeting with my husband so that I might be able to see him.
Yes, good. Have you not got anything regular in the diary where the two of you are just having quality time at the
No.
moment? Okay. So even an hour, even an hour, um, do it. It makes so much difference. And as kids get older, it's so much easier because we can actually walk off to the pub and
Yeah.
have one pint and walk back. And the kids are at home now, because they're 11, 13. So it's that pinch point now. But yeah, just keep changing it, see what works. Well done. That's a great thing. Will.
Find my unmute button. Yeah, it's along similar lines, really. Obviously, we're all very time poor. And for me, it comes down to prioritization, really. So being time poor means stacked. So I'm going to have to give up something. And so I've actually got a little list of things that I've thought about that I just need to give up. And things like I'm a parish councillor, for example, but it takes up a lot of my time. So that's the community side of things. So I'm going to fulfill my commitment to the council, but at the end of the term, which is early next year, I'm going to give that up. So that'll give me back some time that I can spend with the kids, take, young Noah to basketball and these sorts of things that I haven't been able to because I'm just involved in community work or whatever. So things like that. I've got a couple of other things that I'm going to just get really firm on. Saying no, I really like that, Sarah, and and Larissa. I think I need to do that even at work, actually, because I do find that sometimes it takes me into my evenings, my sacred space, if you like. So I think by just pushing back and just saying no, I can't do some of these things. Is going to be a good thing.
So good. Will, love that. Claire, final word from you.
Two very quick things. Anyone who struggles with kind of people pleasing, feeling like they have to say yes, try to reframe it as saying yes to yourself first rather than just saying no to someone else. And also, just with the know yourself, lead yourself, this is my absolute favorite tool. I think it's the foundation of everything. But none of us graduate from the School of Self-Awareness, as Steve says. So you're not trying to reach a destination. This is just kind of being aware. And hopefully that feels hopeful rather than depressing.
That's so good. You're right. And another analogy is weeding. We just have to constantly weed out those things that are no longer serving us or are no longer the things that bring us life, and actually make sure that our circles go from the inside out, starting with self. Well done. You guys have brought so much. That's really rich time. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm sure you'll have to dash off for another meetings, but we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. So a couple more. You'll hear from Claire in the interim. You might have a guest coach next time because I am away that week for a couple of things. But I will let you know in advance who that might be. Okay. Take care. Have a great day. Any questions, feel free to hang on for a minute or two.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Claire.
Thank
so
you.
much. Great to see you.
Cheers for that. Can I just say I'm so sorry for turning up late today. I do apologise, and also not turning up last week as well.
Don't worry.
Yeah, last week my son was assaulted the night before.
Oh,
So
I'm gonna